Hey, what's up? It's Chris, the Drone Geek, and on today's episode of Let's Talk Drones, we're going to be going over the Mavic 3 Classic. We just had some pictures of the packaging for the Mavic 3 Classic released. If history tells us anything, once the leaked images of the packaging for the drone are released, it's pretty much a done deal at that point. No doubt about it, we are getting a Mavic 3 Classic. We're going to talk a little bit about what we can expect from that and more. Let's get into it. Let's talk drones. Before we get into the meat of today's video, I do want to let you know in the coming days, maybe next week, but in the coming days, we will have a review video on these guys right here. The Ribbed Rider Duck Guards by Original Dobo. Ken Dono 3D printed these for the DJI Avata. I can't wait to put them to the test. Plus, he sent me the jock strap for the DJI Avata battery. Don't know how much we'll actually test that, but yeah, we'll talk a little bit about it. So that'll be coming up in just a few days. Today, though, we are talking about the Mavic 3 Classic. Now, I've done a video on this already. I'm going to go ahead and link that up above. You can go ahead and check that out now or whenever you feel like it. But we knew this drone was coming. And recently, there have been some pictures leaked. Seems like a lot of leaks happen at DJI. Leaked that show the packaging for this drone. So again, if history tells us anything, when DJI packaging images are released, at that point we know that it's a done deal. The drone is going to come to fruition. So we are going to get a DJI Mavic 3 Classic. I believe, and this is just speculation, but I believe we will see that somewhere in mid-November, maybe as early as the end of this month, but we only have a few days really left in October. So I'd say mid-November they're going to officially announce it, and that'll be just in time for holiday shopping when people have their holiday budgets put together. So it's going to generate a lot of sales for DJI. And what we want to really focus on here is what's different about this drone from the Mavic 3 Standard or the Mavic 3 Cine. Now, just going over what the Mavic 3 Standard and the Mavic 3 Cine have on board, at this point it's not new, so we're not going to dwell on it, but what they did is they upgraded the Mavic 2 Pro. They gave it a 4/3 sensor. In the case of both drones, the Standard and the Cine, you got a 1/2-inch CMOS sensor at the top of the camera body that allowed you to zoom in up to 28 times digitally. So that was a big deal, that not only were we getting a bigger sensor in the main camera, we were also getting an auxiliary camera that would allow us up to 28 times digital zoom. Now, the problem with that camera on both models, the Standard and the Cine, was that the 28 times zoom was really not usable for any type of creative project. Could you use it in a professional application where you just needed to see something far away? Yeah, absolutely. It would give you enough detail that you could see what was going on. But it really, there's no place for it in any type of video production application, or for that matter, photo production application. It's just not good enough, because that digital zoom does start to lose quality as you continue to crop in and in and in on the image. So it was a little bit of a disappointment. Cool feature, but maybe not as well executed as some of us would have liked. Now, the difference between the Standard and the Cine, of course, the Cine had the onboard SSD. It also has the ability to shoot in Apple ProRes, which is a video codec that makes it a little bit more flexible in post-production. Now, the D-Log that DJI uses for their RAW format for video is fantastic. I've never had any complaints about it. It works really well, especially so in the Mavic 3. They've definitely made some changes to it, and the camera size for the Mavic 3 just does a lot of favors for both photo and video when it comes to raw files. So the Apple ProRes was a nice addition, but again, I don't know if it was abundantly necessary, because the log footage that DJI was capable of was plenty good. Nonetheless, still kind of cool that you could shoot in Apple ProRes, which is an even higher level codec. A little bit of an argument could be made about how much higher level, but certainly a more flexible video format in post-production. So that's what we have on the market now for people to buy. Let's remind you of the price, because we're going to be getting into a little bit about the ethics of the price on the DJI Mavic 3 Classic. For the Mavic 3 Cine, it was $5,000. Now, that came with what was essentially the Fly More combo, plus a bunch of different ND filters, all these accessories that the Mavic 3 Standard didn't come with. That was the Cine package. There were two packages for the Mavic 3 Standard. It's not really the Standard, but that's how I'm going to identify it in this video. The Mavic 3 Standard, you could either get the drone with just one battery and a controller, and that was $2,100, $2,200 really. If you got the Fly More combo, which was the other package for the Mavic 3 standard, it would be about $3,000. That's about how much that would run. That came with 2 extra batteries, plus some ND filters and a charging hub. So, you look at the prices compared to the Mavic 2 Pro, which was somewhere in the market of about $1,600 or $1,700, and you start to think, oh, that's a noticeable price jump for DJI. I mean, people that were buying the Mavic 2 Pro ranged from people with a pedestrian interest in drones that maybe had a little bit of money burning a hole in their pocket to full-fledged professional photographers who needed a reliable aerial solution for their photography or video work. So you start at about $1,600 for the Mavic 2 Pro. You jump up by almost $1,000 on the base package, a little short of that, and then more than $1,000, well over $1,000 for the Fly More kit, as well as the option for the DJI Mavic 3 Cine. The Mavic 3 Classic is interesting because the rumors that are sort of swirling around about this drone are what it will be capable of. We're getting information that's sort of being leaked through, unreliable, but this all sort of, it doesn't come from nowhere. Let's Talk Drones is brought to you by The Droning Company, the #1 online resource for commercial remote pilots based in the United States. $10 a month, nominal cost. You're going to make that back the first time you get a gig using your Droning Company profile or the online job board. It's just $10 a month. When you get a job on the online job board, the Droning Company doesn't take anything off the top. If it's listed at $300, you pocket $300. That's it, no strings attached. Again, just $10 a month for a membership with The Droning Company. You gotta make sure you check them out, thedroningcompany.com, and across all social media platforms. What people are expecting is that this drone will be a 4/3 camera without the telephoto, that 1/2-inch zoom sensor on the top of the drone. It's just going to be the 4/3 sensor. I don't know about anything else. The only other thing I could see is maybe they won't have internal storage on the Mavic 3 Classic, or maybe the battery life won't be as good. I don't know for certain. I just know that from the pictures we've seen, it does look like it is confirmed they are going to eliminate the 1/2-inch sensor on the Mavic 3 Classic. And here's where the ethics come in. And here's where my major ouch is with DJI. And before I get into this, I just want to make it abundantly clear. I love DJI products. They are really, really good. And I mean, yeah, there are some competitors out there that really put out some great solutions that aren't DJI branded, but DJI has been doing it the best for the longest. And their platforms continue to innovate and become more and more capable machines. For that, and for the consistent experience that they provide every time they come out with a new drone platform, you can't go wrong with DJI. I mean, they're consistent. So no love lost for DJI personally here. From a consumer standpoint, I have some problems with the way that they released this drone. Because the telephoto camera on the Mavic 3 Standard and the Mavic 3 Cine really wasn't anything to write home about, I'm sort of upset that they are now releasing a less expensive version of the drone without that sensor. Now, if that sensor was capable of producing professional level video and photo imagery, I'd be a little less upset. I'd go, okay, I paid for a portion of this drone that the 3 Classic doesn't have, and I'm getting the most out of it. But the fact is, I've paid significantly more for the drone that I have, and I'm not getting the most out of it. In fact, if you had gone back to Chris that bought the Mavic 3 at the beginning of this year and said, hey, just hold off, they're going to come out with the Mavic 3 Classic, which isn't going to have that telephoto lens, and it's going to save you a lot of money. I mean, there's going to be a price cut on this thing because it doesn't have that telephoto lens. I would have looked at you and said, okay, yeah, if that's exactly what's going to happen, I'll wait. Not a big deal. Because I don't use the telephoto lens at all. I only use the 4/3 lens. The only time I can really think that I use the telephoto lens is for what it was intended for, or at least that's what DJI said after some of the feedback about how terrible that camera was, is that it's used for exploring only, to be able to see things from far away. But again, I don't know how much I buy that. I think it was just they released something to get a drone out on the market, and it wasn't totally fleshed out the way it should have been. The only way you save that 1/2-inch sensor, that zoom sensor, is by giving it an optical zoom feature, like the Mavic 2 Zoom had on it, where you had a lossless quality zoom. You could zoom in up to 28 times, and you would not lose quality because all of the zoom feature was actually mechanical and was actually adjusting the lens and the way the glass worked together to hone in on a particular part of the image. So yeah, I've got some ethical issues with the way they released this. I think that what they should have done, this is just my opinion, is they should have released the Mavic 3 Classic as the Mavic 3 Standard, and then also, or later, released the Mavic 3 Pro, maybe? Like what would be the Mavic 3 Standard now, and the Mavic 3 Cine down the road, or alongside it. But regardless, the Mavic 3 Classic should have been the first model released. Absolutely. Now, I know DJI, from a business standpoint, wouldn't have made as much money because of the markdown price on the Classic, but I think that there are people that would have held off and would have been happy they held off because of the Mavic 3 Cine. I think using the Mavic 3 Standard, or in this case, if it came out at the same time as the Classic, calling it the Mavic 3 Pro, would have probably been sort of like a loss leader. Would have been something that you offered. People would have bought it for sure, but it wouldn't have been something that was going to make you the bulk of your money. It would have pushed people into two different audiences, either the audience that wants the Mavic 3 Cine with that Apple ProRes and that internal storage of, I think it's 2 terabytes or a terabyte. It's significant. Or the category of the Mavic 3 Classic. In this case, it would be the Mavic 3 Standard if it was all released together, where you don't have the internal storage, you don't have the telephoto sensor, but you do get the upgrade from the Mavic 2 Pro with that 1-inch sensor to a 4/3 sensor on the Mavic 3. I'm a little ouchy over it. I am excited for people that held out. I am excited for people that weren't ready for an upgrade for a drone and now are and have the option to buy the Mavic 3 Classic at a reduced price. And in terms of the actual price, we speculated on this before. I'm not sure if there's been any information I might have missed on whether or not the numbers we talked about in the previous video are accurate, but it is being speculated this drone will run somewhere between $1,700 to $1,900, somewhere in there. If that's the case, yeah, it still stinks, but at least it's more expensive than the Mavic 2 Pro, and they're staying consistent to the fact that this is not the same. But if it's anything less than like $1,700, I'm going to be really upset with DJI from a consumer standpoint because of the way that they released that and sort of taken people for their money before they have all of the options out in front of them. I think it would have probably been a lot smarter to come out with a Mavic Air 3, or not a Mavic Air, but a DJI Air 3 before you came out with a Mavic 3 Classic. You should have just come out with the Air 3 and then come out with the Mavic 4 when you were ready, maybe opting out of that telephoto camera or following through and providing a telephoto camera that actually has an optical zoom on it. It is what it is. There's nothing we can do to change it. I'm trying to be excited for the people, again, that are looking forward to this drone, but you can understand why it'd be a little bit difficult. What do you think, though? Are you upset with DJI and the way that they released this drone? Are you going to buy the Mavic 3 Classic, whether you have the Standard or the Cine or not? And what are you most excited about for this drone? Let me know down in the comments below. And if you really liked this video, hit the thumbs up icon. It helps me out a lot, helps this video get out into the algorithm to viewers like you, drone enthusiasts. If you really, really liked this video, you love drone content, everything shot by drones, for drones, and about drones, this is the channel for you. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Helps me out a lot as well in terms of getting this channel to a monetization level, which means we can reinvest money back into the channel and do cooler and cooler stuff with it. And if you really, really liked this video, really liked it, and you want to see more like it, hit the bell icon as well. It'll give you a notification every time I post a new video. Until next time, I'm Chris, the Drone Geek, and I am out of here.
I go home when I win, I'm alone when the wind blows, and I won't lie, I'm hoping I get advances, this increases chances. My life is like a prom, but there ain't no dances. I'm standing in this hall getting funny glances.